Shalom, shalom, Israel. Shabbat shalom. Another day, another night. Getting the word in, teaching. Glad you guys are here. Glad you guys are watching online or will be watching online really soon. Today's class, we're going to be trying to bring out two perspectives, particularly revolving around the spirit of judgment. But before we get into that, shout out to those that are watching, from our brother camp out in Rochester, Virginia, and Houston, of course. I think some of the Houston brothers are coming down soon, so we'll see them in a couple of days. But shout out, shalom to them. Shout out to those that are listening from California. I think some of the California students are coming down as well, so that'd be good to see them in a little bit. Obviously, shout out and shalom to Kawakab and his congregation. And we'll get started. So, the title of the class, hopefully we'll get all of it in today. To even understand why it's titled this, but it's going to be titled The Sin of Exaggeration. The Sin of Exaggeration. The reason why I'm using that particular terminology is the spirit of exaggeration ultimately is a liar, but it's a little more crafty than a liar. It's not just pretty much telling a full false story. It's almost like a truth sandwich, so to speak. It's almost like I'm going to give you as much detail as you need for you to think it's true, but then I got to add my own flavor to it. Now, there's a psychological reason and explanation on why someone would be a chronic exaggerator. All right? First and foremost, let's get into the scriptures. Give me Ecclesiastes 27 and verse 5 really quickly. Okay. Ecclesiastes 27 and verse 5. I'm going to be using a lot of terminologies, correct? Set stuff down really quick because I need your dictionary skills. So, but I'm using a lot of terminology, a lot of definitions to try to paint this picture as clearly as possible. But give me Ecclesiastes 27 and verse 7.
You mean verse 5?
Oh, but my fault. Verse 5. Yes, sir.
Come. Ecclesiastes chapter 27 and verse 5 reads, "The furnace proveth the potter's vessels. So the trial of man is in his reasoning."
The trial or the test of man is in his particular reasoning. Now, class, what is reasoning? You're going to give me a base definition of what that is, or basic explanation. Y'all look it up. Just whatever you think. Thoughts? Okay.
Decision making.
So, who said what? Justification? Justification. Okay, justification. What else? What you got?
I got the 1828.
No, give me your definition.
Reasoning is like the why we do of what we do.
Okay, the fuel, right? The motivation, the intention of where our actions, our thought process are coming from, right? We're gonna focus on two sorts of reasonings, all right? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to explain what is this spirit of this exaggerator, all right? There's the white crime exaggerator. I'll say that. In the sense of we exaggerate on small things, such as blowing up issues at the house. We'll make a small issue a 3 to a 10, just because we're emotional. Or there's the exaggerator in judgment, which is whatever my particular perspective was, I blow it out of proportion because of how I looked at it. All right. So the definition we're going to use, the first one is objective reasoning. Objective reasoning. Remember these terms. We're going to go back to it a lot. Objective reasoning involves making decisions or forming conclusions based on verifiable evidence, facts, and logical analysis, rather than relying on personal opinions, feelings, or biases. Another way to categorize objective reasoning goes into 5 categories. So a person who judges or a person whose opinions are based off of objective reasoning are impartial, which means their perspective, it says it strives for impartial perspective, minimizing the influence of personal biases, emotions, or preferences. So they're impartial. They're logical analysis. It usually utilizes reasoning to gather information. Again, not feelings, not personal opinions, but reasoning. Independent verification. Evidence-based, measurable, and verifiable, and awareness of their own biases. To put it in a nutshell, an objective reasoner in Christ is someone who's impartial, someone whose evidence or they're clear about what's actually happened. Someone who uses the Bible as a measure or a verifiable tool to establish right and wrong, and who's aware of their own personal biases and of their biases of the people around them. That is an objective reasoner.
So this person does not exaggerate.
This person does not exaggerate. Meaning, if it's time to make a report about a story, right? The perspective is tell it how it actually happened. I'm not going to add fluff to it. I'm not going to exaggerate the details. I'm not going to add my personal opinion on what I think about this person or how I've always known this person was a bad character. They were just, I knew they were going to do this, or
How it made me feel.
how it made me feel, or I expected. That's not how they look at life. They look at life as, this is what happened, this is what this person did, this is what that person did, or this is what I did, and this is the result. That's how they rationalize. That's how they judge.
And it's usually short and concise.
It's short and concise because there's a scripture with much words where Satan lies. I can't. It was in Proverbs. I looked at it earlier, but if y'all got it, pull it. But it's pretty much saying the more we try to add into details, now we get caught in that we're exaggerating. We're adding extra fluff to it. But I don't want to get too deep into that yet. That's objective reasoning. All right. Now the counterpart of that is. Let me get it real quick. It is. Get the definition. It is subjective reasoning. Now, subjective reasoning. People using subjective reasoning tend to either avoid or not know the importance of objective tools. For instance, when they create judgments, they're not using the Bible to justify their perspective or their opinion. All right? Meaning, how I look at this person is solely based off how I feel, not how the Bible would look at it, or not how the Most High wants me to look at this person. All right? Instead, they rely upon their personal opinions and experiences and taste. This is what creates their personal context, their personal perspective. So however they grew up, whatever they like, dislike, or whatever they feel like is right or wrong, that's where their perspectives are coming from. I.e., another word for a subjective reasoner is, you can write this as a subcontext, is in psychology, it's called a confirmation bias. A confirmation bias. All right? A confirmation bias is someone who has a tendency to seek out, interpret, favor, and remember information in a way that confirms existing beliefs. Essentially, people are more likely to pay attention to and recall information that aligns with their preconceived notions, leading them to present only that side of the story. That is a confirmation bias. What you got?
Where are you citing these definitions from?
The confirmation bias, you can just look up in psychology what is confirmational bias. As far as where I got the definition of objective reasoning and subjective reasoning, it's from a study done by Michael Carson, PhD. Dr. Michael Carson, the psychologist. He was a teacher at the University of Chicago.
So this what it could sound like, it could be like, well, I know this type of person. I know what he's capable of. I know what he's gonna do. I could probably say what he's thinking.
Or we'll say, I've seen this before.
Right.
Like, when I say I know this person, I've seen someone similar to you. Maybe you look similar. Maybe you make similar expressions. Maybe you react similar to things. Or that's just how I feel. I just feel like all people are the same type of people. Right. All men are the same. All women are the same. That is a subjective or a confirmation bias perspective. Okay? So now, why is that a problem? In judgment, or in a body, people who operate with a confirmational bias or a subjective opinion or reasoning will be irresponsible leaders and irresponsible messengers. You don't have to be a judge to have subjective reasoning. Because when you go to counseling, you Sharon? Oh, sorry, my fault. But when you go to counseling, and you might be telling a story about what your partner might do to offend you, or what this brother might do to offend you. You might not be in a position of leadership, but how you tell that story, depending on your perspective, could influence the counsel one way or another. But that's what you're looking for. So I don't want to spoil too much. We're going to get into the reasoning on why and all that little bit. I just want to point out what perspective we're looking at. The objective reasoning, which is he uses or she uses objective tools, i.e. the scriptures, to justify right and wrong. They don't have their personal opinion intermingle with judgment, and they let the facts be the basis for the argument. So, let's get into the scriptures. Give me Amos 5 and verse 14. I won't do too much talking, but I had to explain that to get this started.
Amos chapter 5, verse 14.
No, 5 and 14. My fault. Yeah, 14.
Amos chapter 5, verse 14.
Yep.
Seek good and not evil.
This is important because even when it comes to establishing judgment, right and wrong, trying to figure out how I should look at a scenario, if I take the approach to seeking the best result, seeking the most favorable spiritual result out of the situation, seeking the result that will keep us together versus keeping the body together, keep the relationship together versus separating and severing the relationship, you'll have a better result and you have a better chance of staying in alignment and more of an objective reasoning perspective. All right, read on.
Amos 5:14. Seek good and not evil, that ye may live. And so the Most High, the Most High, the power of hosts, shall be with you, as ye have spoken.
Because the spirit in which the Most High follows us in judgment, where the Most High is confirming our actions or confirming our reasoning, is a spirit that brings people together, that inspires people, and that feeds people with positivity. Not destruction, not dissimulation, not what's another word for it? Dissembling, kind of the word, dissembling. My job as a messenger or as a judge, whether I'm establishing judgment, I'm establishing right and wrong, or I am listening to right and wrong, is to make sure this is the most spiritual result possible. This is the most positive result possible. So, let that go. Give me Proverbs 10 and verse 21. Shalom, shalom. For those that are just coming in, the class is titled The Sin of Exaggeration. And all we're doing is we're painting the picture between how the Most High wants us to look and analyze right and wrong, analyze even our own environments, what perspective is the correct perspective, versus how we choose to look at life, choose to look at the environments, choose to look at the people around us. So, we're at Proverbs 10 and verse 21.
Proverbs chapter 10, verse 21. The lips of the righteous feed many.
The lips of the righteous feed many. Meaning what? Even in correction, my job is to build up. Even when I'm judging someone, I'm not judging to destroy. I'm judging to get the most favorable spiritual result out of this person. So if I'm counseling with a brother, and he's obviously wrong, he's obviously negative, am I going at this spirit to tear them down, make them feel worse than they already are? Or am I going at it to where you got to see where you're wrong at, but also inspire, showing them you can overcome this issue. You can overcome this particular sickness. It's just a different perspective. Will change how the conversation ends and starts and ends. This is the righteous feed many. Read on.
But the fools die for want of wisdom.
Okay, let that go. Give me Proverbs 25 and 18. These first couple verses, we're just speeding through them because we're trying to set the tone. So, Proverbs 25 and verse 18.
I got that.
Yeah, that's the honor.
Same book. I'm there. Proverbs 25 and 18.
Yep.
Proverbs chapter 25, verse 18.
So,
go ahead.
the righteous feed many. In judgment and being a messenger and being an establisher of right and wrong, their end objective is still to feed and inspire the flock, not to destroy or tear apart.
Right.
What does the contrary spirit do? Remember, all this is still based off of your reasoning. The trial of man is the man's reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
One reasoning is objective, meaning let me see the greater picture behind this judgment. What am I judging for? Who am I judging for? That's an objective reasoning. Take my emotions out of it. Take my emotions out of the sin. Take my emotion of how I look at you, and let me look at what's actually in front of me, how we can get to Christ faster. Versus the emotional, subjective reasoner, which is looking at how you affected this person, or how I've been affected by you. how your situation makes me uncomfortable, or my personal biases has created a pain, a narrative about you. That's the difference we're establishing right now. So, read that in verse 25 and 18.
Proverbs 25 and 18. A man that beareth false witness against his neighbor is a maul, and a sword, and a sharp arrow.
Now, why are we going and bringing up false witness angles or scriptures? If I'm an exaggerator, am I telling the full story?
No, you're adding on.
You're adding on to the perspective. So now, if I'm adding on to a perspective, let's say I know the person I'm talking to has a particular issue with this person. And I know this about them. I'm going to add a little extra on the story to make sure you are hard on him for a reason. Because now I'm feeding. That's why it says you're a sharp sword, or you're a sword or a sharp arrow. You're adding fuel or damage to this person's character. Does that mean? Now, mind you, an objective thinker can also realize it's never one-sided. Does that mean the person you're talking about wasn't wrong? Probably wrong. They're probably off. But can I look at, okay, what inspired this transaction? What inspired this relationship? Maybe what did I do? What could I have done better to get a better response out of this person? That's an objective reason. That's someone who's looking at this perspective from the Most High. Because the Most High is never looking at it one-sided. He says all of us are liars. All of us are wicked. So he's not believing anybody. He's taking what's right and what's wrong. What did you do? How much understanding do you have on the subject? How responsible are you? And how did you actually respond? Not the other person. What did you do? And with that other person, what did you do? Don't worry about him. What did you do? How could you respond better? What have I taught you in your life? That's how the Most High thinks. He's very objective. That's why he's equitable. He's fair because he's objective. So, read it from the top again.
God, verse 18. A man that beareth false witness against his neighbor is a maul, and a sword, and a sharp arrow.
A man that doesn't give the full truth and has a tendency to add on or to exaggerate is a killer. Is a killer of character, is a killer of reputation, and is an enemy to the Most High. We're going to explain why. We're going to explain why I'm getting so, dramatized on this. Because, give me the verse. Give me 2 Chronicles 19 and verse 6 through 7. Let's use the scriptures more than me talking on it. If I'm going too fast, please let me know. I will slow down. If we need to revisit these definitions, we can revisit them. Second Chronicles 19 in verse 6 through 7. Now, why is it so important for a messenger to be... Oh, wait, hold on. Hold that. Give me... Give me. Refreshing. Wow. Just read that. That's fine. I'll find it. I put the wrong verse. Just read it. Yeah.
2 Chronicles chapter 19 and verse 6.
Hold on. I found it. Verse 25 and verse 13. my fault. Look, I put 15 instead of 13, but both of them work. But it was 13. So read that real quick and then go back to that. So we're still showing both dynamics. So we have the false witness. We have the false witness who's a sword against his neighbor, who's a weapon who damages, versus the type of messenger or the type of information bringer or judge the Most High is actually looking for. Give me Proverbs 25 and 13.
Proverbs 25 and 13. As the cold of snow in the time of harvest, so is a faithful messenger to them that send him.
And this is what the Most High is saying. He wants us to be faithful messengers. A faithful messenger gets the information and disseminates it or gives it out the exact way it was written. They're not sitting here getting the letter and taking and erasing some information out and adding their own little fluff in there. And that's not a faithful messenger. A person that's trusted can sit here and go out in the field, get the message, and give it back to the king, unscathed, untouched, unenhanced. These are the type of messengers the Most High is looking for us to be.
And what's faithful? Faithful. What's another word for faithful? Dependable.
Come.
You can count on this person's word.
Come.
He's going to be concise. He's going to be exact.
Come. Because this is the type of person that you can trust to lead. It starts with just information you give. Can I count you to tell me the same story? I don't know if you've ever seen those games where it's like they have like 7 people lined up and each of them they're supposed to say one phrase like, hey, this dog likes pink monkeys. And you keep saying the same phrase over and over again. And by the 7th person, it's not even talking about a dog or pink monkeys. Well, what happened? Yeah, the phone booth, the concept. That's a real phenomenon. That lets you know right off rip. People, how they look at information is not all the way accurate. That's another class, another time. But it goes to show a faithful messenger isn't adding their own information in, isn't adding their own details in. They're not using their own opinion to try to sway the conversation one way or another. What you got?
Definition on your point, faithful.
Yeah.
Faithful, no Webster 28.5. Faithful, true or exact.
Okay. A true or exact opinion. This person has learned to judge not for himself, but for who?
But for, you said not for himself.
Not for himself. For instance, let's take a scenario. If me and a person have an issue, I was wrong and they were wrong, and I make a phone call. Actually, you know what? Do I want to skip that point? No, we'll save that. We'll save that point. If we have an issue and I'm talking about the issue, I can talk about it one of two ways. The first thing I can say is, this person was off. This person did X, Y, and Z. This person made me feel like this. That's one way of looking at it. That's a subjective thinking. The objective thinker is, okay, this is what I did first. This is how it started. This is what I said. This is where I was wrong at. This is where I could have been better at. This is how he responded. Or this is how you responded to me. It was wrong. I reacted to it poorly. I took it the wrong way. I said this negatively in return, and it blew up from there. That's an objective perspective. Because now I'm telling you from how the Most High might have looked at it. Meaning we're both wrong. We both could have used the discretion better. We both could have used scriptures to disseminate this issue. But we both chose not to. But a lot of us will just focus on the one person, the offender. And this is why it's hard to sit here and take one person's word for it just off of what they say. Because a lot of people are just talking for their own benefit. They're giving you information that makes them look like not the bad guy. So, let's keep going. Give me 2 Chronicles 19 and verse 6. That's not a faithful messenger. The Most High wants people that can give information the way it is and can be the proper leads and guides He expects us to be. Without our personal biases, our personal impartialities, and use the reasoning or the objective tools, i.e. the scriptures, to establish right and wrong, which is judgment. 2 Chronicles 19 and verse 6.
2 Chronicles chapter 19 and verse 6. And said to the judges, take heed what you do.
This is why the Most High said, take heed what you do. Everything you do is being scrutinized by the Most High. Because as a judge, as a person in power to establish right and wrong, you can't have this one-sided perspective or one-sided way of thinking. That's not going to work. You'll never be able to see a scenario objectively or from an outside perspective. If I have all these personal opinions about you or about how I grew up with or what I think is right and wrong, that's not the scriptures. That's you now leaning on your what?
Understanding.
Exactly. That's not the Most High's understanding. So keep reading.
And said to the judges, take heed what ye do, for ye judge not for men.
Because ultimately, you're not in the position to judge just so you can sit here and be the big boss. Or you can be right. You're judging as a mouthpiece from the Most High. That's a very serious stance that we have to consider. That's the level of fear we have to have. Everything I'm saying is supposed to be coming from the Most High. If I'm doing it correctly. This is why Christ said, I think it was John 12 and verse 49. Let me see. John 12 and verse 49. Yeah, give me that. Someone give me St. John 12 in verse 48 and 49.
John chapter 12. John chapter 12, verse 48.
Yep.
He that rejected me and receiveth not my words hath one that judgeth him.
Christ is saying, it doesn't matter if you listen to me or not. I'm not speaking for myself. I don't have a personal opinion about you. When he was blazing the Pharisees up and his level of a stoutness and his frustration with them, that was coming from the Most High. He said, I've disconnected myself from judging you. Read on.
The word that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day.
Why? Read on.
Verse 49. For I have not spoken for myself.
Because an objective reasoner, because a true judge can separate how they feel about a scenario and use the Most High's mind, use the scriptures to establish the right and wrong. When I'm thinking and when I'm establishing right and wrong, are there verses in my head that prove the thought process? Or is it all coming from my personal opinion? That will let you know right then and there what level of reasoning you're messing with right now. Was the Most High's reasoning or my reasoning? Christ said, I speak not of myself. Read on.
But the Father which sent me, he gave me a commandment, what I should say and what I should speak.
The Most High has given us commandments also on what we should say and what we should speak when it comes to establishing right and wrong. So go back to 2 Chronicles 19 and verse 6.
2 Chronicles chapter 19 and verse 6. And said to the judges, take heed what ye do, for ye judge not for man, but for the Most High. Who is with you in the judgment?
And this is why it's so important when I'm establishing right and wrong, when I'm giving information about somebody. And again, this subject specifically, now there's different levels of exaggeration, and there's different ways exaggeration is used. I'm just harping more on the leadership and more on the messenger side of it. There's different ways we go about it, but for right now, this particular aspect of exaggeration or hyperinflating a story to make it what it's not, so that you look better or you don't look culpable, is not the Most High. Keep reading.
Wherefore, now let the fear of the Most High be upon you.
Because if I was really considerate about how the Most High was looking at me with everything I said, would I want him to show me what I said versus what actually happened when I'm facing judgment? That should be the level of fear I should have. For instance, I don't know the name of the test. There's a psychological test, or in psychiatry, there's a test where if you're trying to teach someone how to problem solve, what you do is you take two people and you have them write the problem or write the scenario and situation in a way that's agreeable to the other person. So if me and you have an argument and we have a disagreement, I got to write the disagreement out to where you would also agree the same information I wrote actually happened. Is that how we normally process information? No. Because when I'm telling a story, I need you to do what with me? Sympathize. I'm going to read this really quick. I want you to sympathize with me. Subjective Reasoning by Michael Carson. It says, the reason we exaggerate is because an accurate statement fails to elicit the response we think is appropriate to the occasion. So if I tell you what actually happened, you might not give me the response that I want. For those that have been in counsel, you know, regardless of how intense the situation could be or how right and wrong situation is, if you've been on the receiving side, or if you've been on the side of wanting judgment, I mean, this is my experience. When you want judgment against somebody else, and you're in counsel, and the others are giving counsel, you realize no one is actually winning from this conversation.
Right.
It's never like this person was just obviously wicked. He deserves to get his rank stripped and be shamed and shunned by everybody for 6 years. It never goes down like that. It's always, you was off, definitely. Well, what did you do? You're the ranking guy. You're the ranking guy especially? Yeah, that guy is off. We know. What did you do? How could you have resolved the situation? How could you de-escalate it? And now you're sitting there like, man, I wasn't even the main culprit of the problem this time. I didn't even start it. But I'm still being checked. Like I'm the one that's wicked and wrong? Yes. Because the Most High is saying you should have resolved it. Because if you're a judge of the Most High, you should know that a soft word turns away the wrath. You should know, at the very least, take low. Why don't you suffer to be defrauded? That's what Paul said. So there's many angles in the scripture you can find if you're being spiritual to cope or to de-escalate a situation. Even with Christ. Christ said he was reviled and he didn't do what? He didn't revile back. So what does that mean? There's always stratagems in the Bible to show you how you don't have to always be in these conflicts. But what do we want? We want the conflict. We want the person to see and look at them as bad as I look at them. I want you to tell me this guy was wicked and he was off. And he don't deserve no respect in the camp anymore. That's what we subconsciously want. That's why we tell stories that we tell. For instance, another example. As Michael Carson gave an example. He says, I learned this is a fact from people. I learned this from a woman who was arrested for making a false police report. She now, mind you, the police report was false. Why was it false? She said her boyfriend was trying to kill her, which was true. But hold on, it was true. But the cops did not seem alarmed. So what happened? She's explained to the cops, he's trying to kill me. And they didn't react. They gave the stone cold faces. And they're like, okay. So what did she do? Now I got to spice things up. Because that wasn't enough for you. That doesn't mean she was wrong. He might have been trying to kill her in other means. But what she said wasn't what happened. He says, but the cops did not seem alarmed. So she added that he had a weapon. Technically, this is an example of what Skinner called a man. It's a verbal behavior designed to elicit a response, rather than designed to convey information. This person isn't interested in what's true, only the effect of the audience. So although he might have been trying to kill her, because that wasn't enough to get the cops to react, she had to add something else in there to get the response she was looking for. And that's why it was a false police report. That's why when we get reports from brothers, is it the story itself where information was wrong? Or that little extra fluff you added into it? This guy is driving crazy. He's trying to kill me. Was he really trying to kill you? Or the guy next to him cut him off and he had to slam his brakes? How did you look at it? This guy never cared about me. Really? Last week he just bought you a coffee drink. He offered to take you out. Why do we exaggerate so much? Because just saying, you know what, he didn't care about me right now, or his drive made me feel uncomfortable right now, wasn't going to give you the response you were looking for. You wanted that judge to hear that report and go call and blow him up immediately. Why are you driving like a maniac? Pull over. You need to apologize to that man right now. That's the type of reaction we want. We want fire and brimstone to happen right this second to feel vindicated. Like my emotions matter. But that's not true judgment. That is subjective reasoning. That is opinion-based reasoning.
And that sounds like a lot what a drama actor would do. They want to have the audience react. Or as Dawiawa says, a play actor.
It is.
You're exaggerating. Or biblically, you're bearing false witness.
Hold on. There's other words. There's a talebearer. There's a slanderer. A slanderer just makes up stories. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All these names are in the Bible over and over again. What you got?
No, I was gonna say that's pretty much also ties in with hypocritical. You did the same thing that this person that you were talk on, but you yourself did. You're guilty.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
We'll get to the hypocrite later because the hypocrite is also you're just as bad as this guy. Like you're saying, you're just as wicked. You were just waiting for him to get wicked now, so now you can call him out as fluff. When you've been doing the same thing the entire time. You've been doing the same stuff. You haven't been called out on it yet. But this, I'm only saying it like this and putting this out here because as judges, as people with the, I would say, power to sway public opinion on somebody else, this is a very dangerous game to play with. Because how I talk about someone, especially when I have respect in a camp environment, when I have authority in a camp environment, can destroy the name and rep of somebody else that's trying to bust in their tail. that doesn't deserve that level of criticism. And if they do deserve it, then you deserve it too. Then all of us deserve it. So, let that go. You set that 7?
No, we ain't finished that.
Give me 7.
God. 2 Chronicles chapter 19, verse 7. Wherefore, now let the fear of the Most High be upon you. Take heed and do it, for there is no iniquity with the Lord our power, no respect of persons, no taking of gifts.
So when it comes to establishing judgment, when it comes to disseminating information about another person, I've got to maintain that fear of the Most High. Because everything I'm saying is being analyzed by Him. Let that go. Let's get an example of this. Give me 1 Kings 3 and 16 through 28. 1 Kings 3 and 16 through 28. We might finish this class, we might not. I'm not going to force it if we don't. It's okay. But I want to take this time so we're not getting too confused.
God. 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 16.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
God. 1 Kings 3, verse 16. Then came there 2 women that were harlots unto the king and stood before him.
Okay, so we have a young Solomon. He's fresh on his kingdom. This. I would say this is his first case in which he has to be a king. Has to give judge and sentence down. And he's got 2 women that were harlots unto the king, and they stood before him. Now, as a king who has to establish righteousness, he could have looked them off rip and say, you know what? They're already sinners anyway. I could have condemned them right then and there, because they're harlots. You already can be condemned right then and there, technically, by the law. All right? So keep that in the back of your mind. If he mentions that, if that was a reason to look down on this person, because that's a personal perspective. That's a personal opinion. A subjective person will look at this like, you know what? Why would I even care about what they got to say? They're harlots anyway. They deserve this. They're sinners anyway. They deserve what's happened to them at this point. That's a subjective thinker. All right? Keep that in mind. Read on.
And the one woman said, O my Lord, I and this woman dwell in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house.
Now, I want you to pay attention also to how the story is told. Because most of us, if we're telling a story, like we said earlier, what are we trying to do? I'm looking for some type of emotional reaction, all right? Therefore, I'm not going to be objective even in my message bringing. This still goes 2 ways. The judge has to be objective, and the person telling the story has to be objective to get the most accurate judgment out of this scenario. We keep reading.
And it came to pass the 3rd day after that I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also. And we were together. There was no stranger with us in the house, save we 2 in the house. And this woman's child died in the night, because she overlaid it. And she arose at midnight, and took my son from beside me, while thine handmaid slept, and laid it in her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom.
So, as a judge, there's no way to prove this. I'm hearing this information. This sounds like someone was really wicked, and someone's not. Someone's been done wrong. You laid your kid, you killed your kid and took my kid and played the game, and act like I killed my own kid. That's a hard situation Solomon's even put in right now. Now, as the storyteller, the woman who's telling the story, this is what she thinks happened. She thought about it, she meditated on it, and she's like, you know what? There's no way. This is the logical explanation of what could have happened. Because this baby ain't even my baby. All right? That's what she says. So it's not like she just made the story up. There's no other way this could have happened. All right? Keep reading.
And when I rose in the morning to give my child suck, behold, it was dead. But when I had considered it in the morning, behold, it was not my son, which I did bear.
This is objective. Because she didn't add anything else to the story. She took the facts of the situation. The kid itself is not her kid. So she's deduced this is what happened. Did she say, I've always known this one was out for my kid? I always known she was out to sit here and take what was mine. She couldn't wait to get one up on me. I should never have this person in my house. Did she add emotion to the story? No. She said, look, this is... At first, the baby was dead, which means she probably believed it was her kid at first, until she really thought and looked at the kid like, you know, there's no way. But she didn't assume off rip that woman was out to get her. What you got?
Because it says she rose up
Yes.
in the morning.
Yeah.
That's when she considered it was.
She rose up and she thought about it. She looked at the kid like, okay, this is not mine. But her first assumption wasn't, this woman's always been out to get me. She's always going to take advantage of mine. She got me into this mess in the first place. I didn't even want to be a harlot. She's the one who she could have had a whole other story to this to make this story more than what it could have been. She was objective, which means even as the messenger, I have to tell it as it was. Even if you might not be 100% right, gotta tell how it was. Don't add anything else to it. All right? Keep reading.
And the other woman said, Nay, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. And this said, No, but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son. Thus they spake before the king. Then said the king, The one saith, This is my son that liveth, and thy son is the dead. And the other saith, Nay, but thy son is the dead, and my son is the living.
So you say your son that is dead is actually the one that's living. I know it's kind of confusing. The two harlots, there's harlot A and harlot B. Harlot B is the one that rolled over her kid and switched it out. Harlot A is saying, I got bamboozled. This baby ain't mine. She's lying. Harlot B is saying, no, you actually the one that's lying. That baby is mine. That's the confusion. That's the confusion that's going on here. It's young Solomon. You got to look at this, take away his personal biases. What if young Solomon had a problem with harlot A, which is the one who actually has a living son? What if he looked at her, you know what, I know you're always a liar. You're always telling fibs. I've known you since boyhood, childhood. You was trying to get me in the playground. I'm not playing with you.
Monkey bars, man.
Or I'm dark skinned, she dark skinned, you're light skinned.
Yeah, that's a bias too. That's a bias. Like, look, that's a world bias. Dark is wrong. White, brown is right.
Not unheard of.
Well, white is right. Brown get back. Black.
I don't know.
Black is. I'm Jay. My girl be mad at me right now. She be hot. If you're brown, stick around. If you're black, get back. If you're white, you're right. Okay. That's what she instilled in my head. That's what I was taught as a kid. That was the bias she gave me. Like, no, like that's not real. If he would have used that, would the judgment have been accurate? Would he have been able to even perceive the situation and find the most logical solution right here? No. Because personal biases, how you feel of the person, or how you feel about their particular sin. How about that? Again, if I didn't like your sin, then I might be less apt to give you a better judgment. Because your sin rubs me the wrong way. That's the hypocrite. Because we're all sinners our own way. But I think your sin is just way more worse than my sin. He didn't take that approach. Keep reading.
And the king said, Bring me a sword. And they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, Divide the living child in two, and give half to the one and half to the other.
This is logic. First off, this is the Most High. The Most High gave him the spirit to say this. So this is logic. It might not make sense, but it does make sense. Shoot, if how bad you really want this kid? If it's your baby, you're gonna want this kid to survive regardless. That's your womb. That's your fruit. I don't want to see my kid slice out. I'd rather watch you from afar than have you die just for pride's sake. I'm not gonna let my pride get in the way. That's what he was testing. How much of pride you got? Get ready.
Then spake the woman, whose the living child was unto the king, for her bowels yearned upon her son.
Exactly.
And she said, O my lord, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. But the other said, Let it be neither mine nor thine, but divided.
This cockamamie answer. Let's kill them all. None of us get a baby then. If I can't have it, no one can have it then. That was the judgment. But to get to that point, to think rationally, because you can't think rationally or think objectively by having all that emotion in your head. If you have all this emotion boiled up in you, how can you see the scenario and find the most logical solution to the problem? That's what this story is showing us. He said this kid was wise amongst his years. Because ideally, the older kings would have been able to come with a solution like this, where you don't know who's lying or who's not lying, where you can't read their mind. You can only base off of the facts of what's in front of you and how clear you are. So, let that go. Let me Wisdom of Solomon 1 verse 1 and then jump to 4.
Now,
Wisdom of Solomon, 101.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse 1 reads. Ready?
Yep.
Love righteousness, ye that be judges of the earth. Think of the Lord with a good heart, and in simplicity of heart seek him.
We have to love righteousness for what it is. Even if we're the one that weren't the most righteous. Even if we're not as, even if we won't be looked at as sympathetic or with sympathy by telling the full scope of the story. We have to just love righteousness as what it's supposed to be, which is the truth, which is judgment, which is justice. Jump to verse 4.
Verse 4. For into a malicious soul wisdom shall not enter.
Now we touched on it with Solomon, but if I'm malicious in my intentions, could I even have the wherewithal to look at things logically like this? Or look at it objectively? Look at it outside my personal scope or my personal perspective? Because a subjective thinker is only about their opinion, only about what they believe is right and wrong, and they avoid using objective tools. They avoid, in our case, the scriptures. They avoid rationalizing what the Bible would have said, how the Most High would have judged us. He says, a malicious soul, wisdom won't answer. You won't get a clear enough mind to give proper information or to be a proper judge. Read on.
Nor dwell in the body that is subject unto sin.
What that means is, if I got hate in my heart while I'm talking about somebody or the person I'm in a disagreement with, there's still a lot of hate, envy, disliking of disgust, then guess what that means? You will never have a proper perspective on the situation, on how they are as a person. And when you're giving information, it's always going to be skewed. For example, give me Proverbs 18 and verse 17 really quick. Hold that. Proverbs 18 and verse 17.
Proverbs chapter 18, verse 17.
Yep, read that really quickly.
Proverbs chapter 18, verse 17. He that is first in his own cause seemeth just.
Why do you think the brothers love? This is for people in the camp. I don't know if this happens with y'all too. Whatever is a situation that happens bad, brothers love to make that first phone call. Whoever gets the first phone call establishes who was right and wrong. A lot of times, unfortunately. Shouldn't be that case. But if I call first, this brother was wicked.
Like the popo.
Look, it's exactly the popo. Popo, like, they're going for whoever the accused was first. This brother started all the problems. I was just minding my business, and he came up and slapped the water bottle out of my hand. That's how dramatized we'll get with our stories. And you're like, dang, I'm like, why would he? That's so uncharacteristic of him.
Or I'm gonna tell him myself so it doesn't seem that bad.
Oh, that's a different psychological manipulation tactic. That's a different one. That's true too. I'm gonna downplay. I am what you say I am. Type of Eminem. So you can't hit me. That doesn't return. I already said I'm with you. I already know that. I acknowledge my. No. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about someone who's calling. They were one of the main instigators of the issue, or they should have been one of the main de-instigators of the issue, but they're playing the hurt and battered little piggy out. This mean big bad wolf got me, and he sat here and abused my meekness, and he said and took advantage. I'm just trying to be a good guy, and he's just the worst guy in the world. Read it from the top again.
Proverbs chapter 18, verse 17. He that is first in his own cause seemeth just.
He says, this person, we race to get the judgment across out first, so that the perspective is established. But as a judge, I've got to see, okay, like Solomon, when he was listening to the woman, did he agree with the woman off rip, the first woman that spoke, or he let them both speak? He let them both get their cause out. Because 9 times out of 10, there was some filler in there. There was some lying in there. A lot of times people aren't coming out and saying the real, nowadays at least. They're not saying what actually happened, where the situation went south, where it started, who was the issue. Everyone's got their own perspective. That's why you be in counsel and there's 2 different stories being told. There's two completely different scenarios. The times be different. This happened at 9:15. Actually, it happened at 8:45. God. Really? There's a 45-minute difference? A 30-minute difference?
I was looking at my phone when it happened.
I had a blue shirt on. Actually, he had a black shirt. Okay. That's how dumb it gets. But it's all about, okay, if I get this story out first, I'm gonna call Dawiyah and tell him what happened. So Dawiyah's gonna go and blow this together guy up. And he's like, bro, I didn't even know it was a problem. I thought we were cool. I thought it was squashed. Now it's got escalated. Now judgment has been skewered. But that is our fault as messengers. That is a malicious soul. You know why? Because what they know is, if I say it this way, I'm going to get this reaction. And I'm going to get this elder or this judge to respond this way. And that's what I want. I want them to charge them up. I want them to feel small. That is a manipulation tactic. And it's a malicious tactic. So when it comes to you being a judge and your perspective can't be trusted because of what? Wisdom of Solomon 1 and 4.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse 4. For into a malicious soul wisdom shall not enter, nor dwell in the body that is subject unto sin.
You won't have wisdom, and your logic won't make sense, and your perspective won't make sense, because you got all this hatred, frustration, or lust when it comes to establishing right and wrong. And that's not a fair judge. That's not someone who can sit here or who's considered a refreshing messenger, like the scripture says. Keep reading, verse 5.
Come, verse 5. For the Holy Spirit of discipline will flee deceit and remove from thoughts that are without understanding.
But this happens because you've already been playing with this frustration on that person. If I already have a negative perspective on this person, when the situation happens, I'm only going to look at it from a skewer perspective. I'm only going to look at them as, this was inevitable. They were always this wicked guy. I knew it. I told you before, this guy wasn't going to last. I told you before, this guy was wicked. He's always been a liar. He's always been a wicked dude. You're waiting on the situation to turn south so that your perspective can be justified. But that's not the spirit of Christ. That's not how he wants to look at people. We can't go around looking at people like you're always going to F up. You're always going to be the screw up. You're always the wicked guy. You're always the person that can't be trusted. That's not how the Most High wants us looking at people, because how would we like it if he looked at us the same way? That's the hypocrisy. That's the spirit of a person who can't look at themselves. Give me that verse. Find me that verse that talks about how. You missed my word. Give me Acts 21, verse 18. Find me that verse that says, you're like a man of himself. How can you hate a man that's like unto yourself? Like yeah.
21:18.
Read that y'all out first, and then Mo, get Acts 21 verse 18 after.
Okay.
Well, let y'all find this verse first.
That's right.
That was your favorite verse, man. That's why I told you to get it.
That's right. It's Ecclesiastes 28.
Okay.
Ecclesiastes 28 and verse 4. That's what you're talking about.
Okay, read that.
That's right. You don't want to? Remember, I'll do 4.
Oh,
Ecclesiastes 28 verse 4.
Well, actually, yes, I do want to. Yeah, give me two.
I got you. I'm right here. Ecclesiastes chapter 28 verse 2. It says, forgive thy neighbor the hurt that he hath done unto thee. So shall thy sins also be forgiven when thou prayest. One man beareth hatred against another, and doth he seek pardon from the Most High? He showeth no mercy unto a man which is like unto himself.
Well, this is the thing, because the Most High says his judgment is those with the merciful. I guess I might add that verse in there too. He says you got to forgive your neighbor the hurt that he had done unto thee. If I want to be a proper judge, I can't roll in the spirit of vengeance, roll in the spirit of anger, vexation,
Partiality.
Well, it's grudging. That's what increases, and that develops the partiality. I'm partial because I already have a grudge against this person. I already have a problem against this person. That's not a spirit that can be trusted. Read that again from the top.
Ecclesiastes chapter 28. You want verse 4 too, sir?
Read 2.
Ecclesiastes chapter 28 verse 2.
Give me Psalms 25 verse 8.
Forgive thy neighbor the hurt that he hath done unto thee.
See, I have to forgive my neighbor of the hurt he's done unto me before I sit here and start talking about this person. That is someone who can remove their personal feelings and their personal sentiments from the equation to get the best result that's looking for good. Meaning, I'm looking for this issue to be resolved. Not to tear this person down, not to make this person feel worse than they already are, not to make them look like the bad guy. I'm looking to get this resolved between the both of us because there's fault within both of us. There's sin within both of us. And the sin is relying on the fact that we might both have this level of frustration, this level of hating us. And this hate is continuing these issues because not everybody has these problems. It's like select people are having the same problems every couple of months. Do you know why? Because that hate and that frustration has not been rooted out. Give me that. Psalms 25 verse 8. Hold that.
Con. Psalms chapter 25 and verse 8 reads, Good and upright is the Lord. Therefore will he teach sinners in the way.
It says the Most High, because he's good and upright, he'll still give sinners a chance to see life from a proper lens, a proper perspective. If what? Read.
The meek will he guide. The meek will he guide.
The meek will he guide. Not the vengeful, not the frustrated, not the hateful, not the prideful. The meek. The ones that can take injury and not take them personal. That can sit here and get done wrong. That can be defrauded. That can allow themselves to be defrauded again. That's what the Most High requires of us. And still look at them within a proper lens. And not look at their actions, not look at their perspectives personally. Keep reading.
The meek will he guide in judgment, and the meek will he teach his way.
Why? Because the meek can actually see life from a correct perspective. Because I don't have any personal feelings attached with this person, I can see them for who they really are. Yeah, they're sick, but I can now analyze, he's made some changes. He's still sick, but that sickness ain't as bad as it used to be. Versus, this guy's never changed. 5 years the same dude. 10 years the same dude. He don't want God. That's the exaggeration we'll make. He'll never be a Christly man. We'll make these boisterous assumptions like we know the Spirit of the Most High God in that man. That don't mean that person's innocent. That don't mean he's not a sinner. He is. Probably is. But how I choose to look at them, now you're damaging them, damaging the progress he's making in front of the rest of the people. So, okay, fine. You can do that. But what if the Most High took time and has analyzed all your secret faults and has brought all your secret faults to light? Let's really talk. Then we'll bring everyone's secret faults to light and now everyone's a dirtbag. That nobody got respect in the camp. Or how about, let's take this person and these issues for what they are. This time he lost his patience. This time, you know what? He could have been more considerate. This time, he lost patience because I had lost my patience first. He was inconsiderate because I was inconsiderate first. That's objective thinking. That's what the Most High will teach because they're meek and they're humble. Read on.
Con. Verse 10. All the paths of the Lord are mercy and truth unto such as keep his covenant and his testimonies.
It says the Most High will have mercy and truth unto those that keep his covenants and testimonies. Now give me back who had yeah, read that real quick.
Ecclesiastes 28, verse 2.
And someone else give you Matthew 7 and verse 1 through 5. Yep, read that.
Ecclesiastes chapter 28, verse 2. Forgive thy neighbor the hurt that he hath done unto thee. So shall thy sins also be forgiven when thou prayest.
Not only because the Most High knows how difficult it is to forgive the offenses someone's done to you. This is why even the disciples in Matthew 18, they asked the Lord for more faith. When he said you had to forgive 70 times 7. He says, Lord, please give us more faith. He knows this is not an easy task to do. But you have to do it if you want to be a judge and a leader and a proper messenger in Christ. There's no other way around this. Because you're going to be done wrong. You're going to be spit on, thrown up on, get someone else's sickness on you from the people around you that you're leading, that you're trying to judge. That sickness is going to happen. That offense will come. It needs to come.
And what is meekness, right? We all know meekness is enduring injury without resentment. So if you're going to speak first, are you really enduring the injury? No, you're spewing out what you want to say first.
Come.
A meek person will listen first.
Come. They'll listen. And it also says an objective reasoner is very aware of their own thoughts. It's very aware. They are very aware that they have biases. It's not that an objective reasoner doesn't have a bias. It's not like he don't have. He might feel more inclined to be disgusted with some sin than others. He probably has that reasoning, but he can separate that bias from the actual judgment. He's not going to use that as ammunition to amp up the problem because he doesn't like this particular issue or this particular person. He'll separate because he's aware that it's there. Versus subjective reasoner, whether they're aware or not, they don't care. Let that be the fuel for their anger. So, keep reading.
Verse 3. One man beareth hatred against another, and doth he seek pardon from the Most High?
And this is the question. Why am I bearing hatred towards anybody? Why do I have such a strong, intense feeling to see someone fall anyway? Are we not aware we can fall just as fast? And be embarrassed just as fast? And be brought to nothing just as fast? This is what he's saying. We have such hatred towards one another. Like we're not sick. Like we're perfect.
We got beef with each other.
That's hatred. Why do I have beef with anybody? I got problems. Borderline will throw hands. Why?
Got that McDonald's beef that never goes over.
The McDonald's and Burger King out? Hey, when I was in Papa John's act, we was beefing with Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut. McDonald's is cool. Pizza Hut, but we did not like the dudes, bro. We were always talking about, man, their ingredients is whack. They got frozen ingredients. They're not doing this natural that we're doing. Bro, we was always talking down. I don't know if they had commercials against them as well, but as a staff, bro, we was clanking. We had to shop next to them. So we were like, bro, you need to come to us. You need to come to our spot. I don't know about the other dudes. They had greasy food. Put a napkin on their food, it's going to be greasy. Ours is going to be nice.
Hey, that is real.
I know it's real. I was there.
It's crazy that you're saying that because when you think about the slogan of Papa John's, it's better ingredients, better pizza.
Papa John's. That's the point now. Until the racist thing came out, then it kind of jacked the flow up. But you know, like they're not all racist, but you know, our guy got caught handed, got red-handed. But the point is that we creating these beefs or maintain these beefs. Offenses are gonna happen. Someone's gonna do you wrong. You're gonna be affected for a while. You're gonna feel some type of way for a while. That's a normal human reaction. But why are we having these issues? It's like we compound issues. We're compounding issues, and we're holding grudges that happened 6 years ago. I remember a brother came to the camp one time, and you know the first thing he said about one of the men that were there for a long time was a situation that happened like 4 or 5 years previous. I'm like, why are you still thinking about that? Like you ain't seen this guy in 4 or 5 years, and the first thing you bring up is something that happened when you started to have a facial hair? What are we talking about? That's how we operate. Or for the other person, they couldn't let go of the last issue they had with that person 4 or 5 years previous. Like, bro, this guy he may be a new guy. He may be a new dude. It's 4 or 5 years. How do you know? Yeah,
holding on to grudges and all.
That's the point. Meaning, every Passover. How about this? Every Passover that we said we let go of the old leaven, we never did. We're in Passover like on tomorrow, 2 days ago. 2 days, right?
Second Passover.
It was second Passover, right? Every problem that we're seeing now are stemming from problems that happened the year previous or the year before that, which means they never got resolved. Which means you never forgave them. So you lie, and you've been lying, and you keep lying, and you're wondering why the problem just gets worse and worse and worse, and the problems in the same individuals over a period of time. What you got?
But I still want forgiveness.
Oh, we want forgiveness. We ain't here for no freebies. We're not here just to suffer. Okay, read it.
So, verse 4 now. It says, He showeth no mercy to a man which is like unto himself, and doth he ask forgiveness of his own sins?
And that's the point. Why ask for forgiveness? Or why be busting our tail so hard to attain righteousness if we're not letting go of the principal emotions that should have been eliminated when we started learning who we were? Which was wrath, which was envy, which was that worldly analysis, that worldly perspective. What you got? Your mom. Yeah, you look like you was, it's good.
It's all 5 to like 9. It says, if he that is but flesh nourish hatred, who will entreat for pardon of his sins?
And that's the point. Because that goes into what? Give me Matthew 7 and verse 1.
Matthew chapter 7, verse 1.
Yep.
Judge not, that ye be not judged.
It says, judge not, that ye be not judged. That does not mean I let someone sin and don't say nothing about it. Or I see someone's doing complete wickedness and I don't acknowledge it. That's not, Christians will teach that. That's not the Bible.
It doesn't say don't be a watchman.
Yeah, that's exactly. It says don't have a negative perspective on somebody. Like you just some holy, king or queen out here. No, that's not you. That's not none of us. We're all wicked. Because if you're going to be judging, get specific. Read on.
For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged.
Which also means whatever measure you have on somebody is the exact same measure the Most High is looking at you. For instance, if I'm looking at this person jacked up because they're always this angry person, I just don't like being around angry people who just are take the fun and everything and they're always negative and they're pessimistic, then you better never be pessimistic. That better never be you. That better never be coming out your mouth. You better never have a negative comment ever. Because you was harking on how negative this person was.
You better be chipper.
You better be
all
chipper
the time.
every day. It don't matter. You better be smiling. It's 105 outside, you better be smiling. You're working for 12 hours, you smiling. It don't matter.
You got deep dimples.
You
better smile.
Look, but not the fake smile,
No.
the real one. That better be you all the time.
Cheesing.
Keep reading.
God, middle of 2.
Mm-hmm.
And with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again.
So this is the point. If I'm bearing hate for somebody, then what's the Most High going to be bearing towards me?
Same thing.
Because who are you to hate anybody? You might not say I hate you, but with how you operate with that person is hate. How I look at that person, you know how you think about someone when that name comes up. When they walk in the room, what thought you have to fight back. If you're fighting back bad thoughts, that should let you know, hey, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Why am I so negative right now? This guy just walked in. I already got a negative thought. Oh, look at this. Why is that perspective we have? That's not godly. But we'll do that. Because whatever they did was just the most negative thing in the world. Or whatever character they are, they're just the most wicked guys ever. He says, okay, then I'm going to measure you by the same measurement. And you got to live with that measurement. Every time you offend me like he's offended you, and you get all uppity, and you want to see him stoned, and you want to see him get his rank stripped and embarrassed, okay, then that's you. That's going to be you real soon. Keep reading.
Verse 3. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye?
Meaning, it's obvious. There's a lot of Captain Obvious in Israel. It's obvious when, for instance, we have inspection. When someone's inspection, they got that face. They got that face like, I don't want to be your face. That like, really it's F you face. And you can see them cussing you out and with every little emotion they're making in their eyes. Yeah, you know they got a problem with you. And that's fine. But if you got for those that have been on the stand, it's okay if you don't really care. Like, oh, that's just him. It's just whatever, bro. I'm not. It only matters when the guy you've already had issue with the day before has got that same face. Now I gotta blow him up. You are out the spirit. I'm pulling verses and I'm exposing how wicked you are as a person. That's not what he wants from us. You got to be there for everybody. Then be there for everybody then. But you're not going to be because you know it's not what Christ wants. He didn't want you to always be the fiery guy. Always be the embarrassing guy. Can you? Remember, I'm not just talking out of my tail. Give me Jude 1. Give me Jude 1 real quick.
And just real quick, just to put in perspective what a moat and a beam is, if you take a look at construction or like a log cabin, you see that big supporting beam that's going down the middle of the house?
Yeah.
You look up, that's a beam.
Okay, so it's a huge structure.
Right.
So it's the obvious sin.
Right, so it'd be like, a piece of construction trash, like a piece of wood,
Yeah.
compared to that beam.
Con. Read me out Jude 21, verse 23.
Jude 1:21.
So these are the different ways to be a judge. Okay. Now all these perspectives, you can't be taking someone personal while you're giving it, but to be able to bounce back and forth between the two, you have to have a clear conscience. Read this real quick.
God.
We're off script, so we're flowing right now. Read on.
God. 21. Keep yourselves in the love of Yahweh.
Keep yourselves in the love of the Most High. It don't matter what these people are doing, how they've affected you, what perspective you might have had on them. You got to keep the love of the Most High and the fear of the Most High in mind when you're casting judgment. Because again, you're not judging for yourself or for man. You're judging for the Most High. Everything you say, everything you do is supposed to be for the Most High's benefit, for His flock's benefit. Read on.
Keep yourselves in the love of the Most High, looking for the mercy of our Lord Yahweh Shah unto eternal life.
Because unto the merciful, He will what? He will have mercy. That's Psalms 27. To the merciful, He will have mercy. So if I keep mercy as the forefront of how I judge and how I look at people, meaning you're not as bad as your action shows right now. You're not as long as you're here, you're not as wicked as what you're displaying at this moment. That's not you talking. That's Satan talking. That's the demon talking. Can we look at things objective like that? Christ did. When Peter was about to cut the ear off of the Roman soldier, what did Christ say? Get behind me, Satan. Did He say, Peter, you're a satanic dude? Say, hey, you got a satanic spirit on you right now. That's not normally you. Don't let that be you. Can we look at things objectively like that? Mercy. Read on.
And if some have compassion.
So, I have to have the ability to know what each person needs from me as a judge. What each person needs to hear from me. What spirit each person needs from me. Some need compassion. Read on.
Making a difference.
Because some never had compassion in their life. Some never received the benefit of the doubt. They never received someone who actually was considerate and looked at the grand scheme of their mistakes and didn't just assume they're just a wicked guy. Then just smack them in the head when they was wicked. Like in school. I know for me, I'm going to say my story at least. When I go to sleep, I'd be sleeping in class. My teacher would get this big roll of newspaper and just smack me in the head every time. Every time. Like, she was nice, but her thing was like, you're not going to disrespect me in my class. That was second period. She didn't realize I had first period football every day and a bad diet. So, the first period football, muffins and sugar. After practice, you're going to be crashing in second period. That's just what it is. She didn't consider that. Some people need compassion. Some people don't need to get smacked in the head every time they make a mistake or they fall asleep in class. Some people need to be, okay, what do you do? What do you do when you go home? How many hours do you sleep? What does your diet look like? Are you on your phone all night? When you get up, how do you prepare yourself? Do you just get up, go out to bed, and go to work? Or do you have a preparation time? That's the type of compassion we're talking about. Some people need that. Read on.
And it says, and others save with fear, pulling them out of the fire, hating even the garment spotted by the flesh.
And some people need that fire, need to be criticized in every single thing they do because they never had structure and order in their life. And they might not respect compassion as much. They might need someone to be directly over their shoulder and micromanaging their life. But how can I know what each person needs? Or how can I be what each person needs if I got this secret resentment in myself? If I have some low-key hate about this person's sin. How this guy operates, I just can't stand. So he might need compassion. He's getting fired. He might need fire. I'm not even going to give him compassion. I don't even do it. He ain't getting nothing.
And having compassion, when it says make a difference, what if you're that type of person to not really have compassion? When you do display that compassion, you make a difference. Like, you know what? He was cool with me today. He was wild. He wasn't fire. And then it says, and then able to and save them with fear. So when you are fired, and they think about it, you know what? He's not always firing me.
Yeah, exactly.
He's been compassionate. He wasn't condescending.
Because the other thing is, the fire I'm giving, am I giving the fire to tear down, or am I giving the fire to motivate and inspire?
Stir up.
That's a huge difference. I mean, if you've never been in that type of environment where you've seen someone motivate with fire, then come around us for a little bit. You'll see it. And you'll see the bad example too. Because it happens. The good and the bad happens. There's no hiding here. Which is why we're having this class. Because I have to know what's the right way to be the fire person, what's the right way to be the charge of the hyper-analytical, and what's the wrong way. And the Most High will show you that in a camp environment. But I can't be one-sided, and my perspective, my opinion, can't be based on my personal opinions. Because ultimately, I'm still doing the hating even the garment spotted by the flesh. I'm still being the fire guy because the Most High needs this guy to change right now, yesterday. Because if he don't change right now, yesterday, he might not make it. Let that go. Let's get back on the topic real quick. No, I'll go there probably a little later. Give me Acts 21 verse 18. So we're gonna start the story. We're gonna see another example of this and how judgment, skewer judgment, has causes destruction and causes defamation amongst our people, and we've been doing it for a long period of time. Acts 21 verse 18.
Acts chapter 21, verse 18.
Let me get there real quick. I'm tripping. All right, read that, sir.
And the day following, Paul went in with us unto James, and all the elders were present.
Okay, so Paul went to James. Paul was getting some bad reports. The people were trying to kill him. All right, if you don't understand the story of Paul was teaching a message that was not widely understood. It was misinterpreted, and that's the problem here. So he has to go in front of the main church in Jerusalem, in front of Peter and James. Read on.
And when he had saluted them, he declared particularly what things the Most High had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry. And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord, and said unto him, Thou seest, brother, how many thousands of Jews there are which believe.
Okay, first things first. The leaders that were in Jerusalem that heard this testimony, what perspective did they take when they heard Paul's journey? How did they look at it? It's not a trick question. They did what? They praised the Lord for what he was doing amongst the Gentiles. Meaning everything he was telling them, how he was teaching the people, how he was training the people, how he was motivating the people, they understood the spirit behind it. They accepted the spirit behind it, and they agreed with it. Then they added on, like, hey, we're also doing good works over here too. Meaning there was no pride, there was no envy, their perspective was very, okay, you're doing great works for the Most High. That's all it was. But is that how everyone was looking at what Paul was doing? The works he was doing amongst the Gentiles, the works he was doing amongst the rest of the nations? Is that how did everyone share the same perspective? Let's find out. Keep reading.
And they are all zealous of the law.
Mm-hmm.
And they are informed of thee.
So he's saying, our congregation is zealous. And they got wind from these other Jews around that you're teaching what? Read on.
That thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the custom.
So what did they say? What news did they get back? Their students heard that Paul is teaching all the Jews, which are among the Gentiles, that are all scattered, you got to forsake everything Moses stood for. Everything Moses stood for, don't follow. Follow me instead. That's what they heard. That's an exaggeration. That's subjective. That's not real. That's an opinion. When you read in the stories, a lot of these churches were envious of Paul. Because when Paul would come in and he would teach, all of a sudden all the followers would go follow Paul. And they wanted Paul to keep coming back teaching over and over again. So there was an envy getting created in Asia Minor. That they were starting, and in Euphrates, that they were starting to spread these false claims about him. But look at the exaggeration. Look at the false reports. All because of the pride. All because of the envy. Now they're causing or passing judgment on an innocent man. Keep reading. Or it says, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, needed to walk after their customs. Now, is that the spirit in which Paul was teaching? Let's find out what Paul was actually trying to teach amongst his people. Romans 2 and verse 25 through 29. Misunderstanding information is not justifiable to recreate information. Yes, we understand that Peter said Paul taught and he was above his time, and his information, I think it was 1 Peter 3 and 16, his information was hard to understand. But they took whatever they heard and whatever perspective they had on Paul, misconstrued it, and spread it across, wanting his head in exchange. So now give me Romans 2 and verse 25. What was Paul really trying to teach? What was the spirit behind what he was saying?
Romans chapter 2 and verse 25. The circumcision verily profiteth. For if thou keep the law,
It says circumcision verily, which is truthfully profits, if you're keeping the law. Read.
but if thou be breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision.
So he's saying, what's the purpose of being this circumcised Jew if you're still not following the spirit behind what the circumcision stood for? To be circumcised, which means you're walking in the covenant that was given to Abraham. You're now agreeing with the mind Abraham had when he was following the Most High. You agree servitude comes first. You agree my life is last. You agree I have to have a biblical perspective on life. You're agreeing with that when you get the circumcision. That's what it's supposed to, that's what it stood for. Read on.
Therefore, if the uncircumcision keep the righteousness of the law, shall not his uncircumcision be counted for circumcision?
So his perspective is, I got all these new Israelites that were coming from all levels of walks of life. They're doing all types of idolatries, all types of atrocities in the world, and they're now following the spirit, the original spirit that was taught back in Deuteronomy 12 or 10 and 12, when it says you have to have what's the word? Uncircumcised hearts. Circumcised hearts. Meaning your heart, your mind, not just your flesh, has to be dedicated towards the Most High. So I got all these Jews that are now following you, following Christ, in the proper perspective. Is not their righteousness of the law? Does it not count as circumcision anyway? That's his ideology. That's his perspective. That's his doctrine. That's his teaching. Read on.
And shall not uncircumcision, which is by nature, if it fulfill the law, judge thee, who by the letter and circumcision doth transgress the law?
He says, you guys think you're on a level because you have this circumcision, but they're spiritually more mature than you are. So wouldn't they be your judge, your heads, because they have the mind after me? They actually can look at perspectives and look at objective reasoning and can follow the scriptures and what they're supposed to be taught, versus you who just flaunt the exterior. This is his analogy. It's not he's saying don't follow Moses. It's not saying discard everything you were taught. He's saying what was the spirit behind what he was taught. Just like Christ. When you read in Isaiah 42 and 21, Christ came to magnify the law. The spirit behind what the law was is what Christ embodied. It wasn't just mechanical, as Israel loved to follow it. It was more than that. Keep reading.
For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision which is outward in the flesh.
He says, because the flesh that we glory in and have so much pride in doesn't make us honorable in the face of the Most High. All this external glory we try to do does not mean we're in good grace with the Lord. If you're not focusing on who you are as a person and what changes you're making, you're going to be out of line with the Lord every single time. Keep reading.
But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and in the left.
Mm-hmm. And not in the left.
And not in the left.
Mm-hmm.
Whose praise is not of men, but of the Most High.
So this concept obviously was not understood. It wasn't understood then, and for most Israelites, it's not understood now. We've got 10 classes on this subject if you want to get more in depth on what this actually means. But to give an overview, he was explaining your character and what you do every single day shows a lot more about who you are than what you present in your flesh.
So if you are zealous of the law, but you break the law, are you not exaggerating? If you follow the customs, you go to the Passovers, you wear your garments with the fringes, but you break the law.
Okay.
Are you not also exaggerating? Right? That's also only in the exterior.
Okay.
But in your interior, where you're supposed to be circumcised, you're exaggerating.
And you're a liar. And you're a son. And your real father is Satan, like Christ says. Because a liar won't see things from the proper perspective. They're going to constantly choose the perspective that makes them look the best, makes them look innocent, makes them not be accountable. And this is how you get these Pharisees who are always stirring up issues. This was a constant issue. But this issue of I'm giving false judgments, I'm seeing things from a one-eye perspective on inflaming problems was an old commandment, an old law we've been breaking since the time of Moses. Give me Exodus 23 and verse 2. Exodus 23 and verse 2.
Exodus chapter 23, verse 2.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read?
Yep.
Exodus chapter 23, verse 2. Thou shalt not follow a multitude unto do evil.
First things first, we should not be in agreements with people who are obviously trying to establish wickedness. Who are obviously trying to establish unjust judgment. Read on.
Neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment.
What does that mean?
So I can't sit back here and talk or say something to twist the judgment. Rest in this sense doesn't mean wrestle, it means to twist.
Okay.
So I can't say things or spin a story or say something a certain way to make it to where the judgment is now twisted to go into my favor or a certain way, per se.
You want? Yeah, it says, neither shall thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. Meaning, if you have influence, some people are great orators. Some people can just talk and inspire and motivate to jump off cliffs and go to war. If you got influence, you got clout, so to speak, or you have prestige, you shouldn't be using that prestige or that influence to make many people make mistakes in Christ. Just because you don't like this person, or you don't like this nigga, or you're envious. Because guess who was making the people try to kill Paul? It was the priests in the synagogues in Asia Minor, or Euphrates. It was the ones who had influence in their churches, and they fed that influence to where now we gotta take this guy out. But this is an old law. It says you can't be this person who is using the prestige or the name the Most High gave you as a way to tear down the rest of the world. You can't do that. Now, give me Editions of Esther. Editions of Esther, chapter 7 and verse 5. That's in the Apocrypha. I gotta find mine. It was a very small book. Chapter 7 and verse 5. Give me a second, because these pages are glued together. Read that. If you got it, read that. You don't got it?
So, page
It
55.
can't be no crazy book, is it? Nah. They'll pull some crazy. Yeah, no, that's the one.
It starts at 55. Which one do you want?
7 and verse.
Okay.
My book might be the chapter might be a little different. Let me make
It's a little
sure.
different.
Let me make sure my chapters aren't all crazy. Yeah, my chapters are crazy. Okay, let me 1 second, y'all. I know I'm not. This is not no different, strange book. Okay, so on my phone is chapter 7, but I think in the Apocrypha it might be. Okay, it's Esther 16 in chapter 5. In the Apocrypha, it's Editions of Esther, chapter 16 and verse 5 through 6.
Right.
Yeah, it's like it.
Rest of Esther, chapter 16 and verse 5.
Y'all, everyone find it?
Page 57.
Okay, cool. Make sure. Okay, read on this. Read on this spirit right here.
God. Oftentimes, also, fair speech of those that are put in trust to manage their friends' affairs have caused many that are in authority to be partakers of innocent blood.
What is it saying? It says people who've been put in trust and positions to be proper messengers, and we're put in positions to manage. It's like us, who the elders trust us to handle certain small issues, right? But every time I handle these issues, I'm only going to give a false story. So now, when these elders are trusting me because they put us in charge to give accurate information to be proper judges. Now they're taking our word for it because of what we've done in the past. Now they're also part of this innocent blood being shed. This is what's been done time and time again. People have been abusing the power, abusing the influence, abusing the trust they've been given because their perspective is not accurate. And they don't judge for the Most High's cause. Read it again.
Okay. Rest of Esther, chapter 16 and verse 5. It says, oftentimes also fair speech of those that are put in trust to manage their friends' affairs have caused many that are in authority to be partakers of innocent blood, and have enwrapped them in remediless calamities.
I can't pronounce it.
Remediless.
Remediless calamities.
Yes, fast.
Redeemable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No remedy or no redeem. Not redeemable. Damn, English language is crazy. Keep reading.
Verse 6. Beguiling with the falsehood and deceit of their lewd disposition.
He says their lewd dispositions, their cockamamie way of thinking and perceiving life is now destroying the lives of men who are trying to live right, who are trying to be proper judges, who are trying to be proper leaders. Just off of trusting the wrong person, putting in power the wrong person, whose mind wasn't doing this for the Most High, who had ulterior motives, who had ulterior lusts that was manipulating their perspectives on life. Keep reading.
Beguiling with the falsehood and deceit of their lewd disposition, the innocency and goodness of princes.
This is now elders are being taken down because they trusted people who couldn't get past their feelings, couldn't get past their subjective reasoning, their personal feelings on issues. Let that go.
Can I get something real quick?
What you got?
Just on your point, give me Suzanne. History of, you got that one?
Yeah.
All right. Hey,
we got a whole thing. You're in the spirit. We got like 2 more verses. We're getting right there. There. Give me Ecclesiastes 20 and verse 24 to 26. Yeah, chapter 20, verse 24 through 26.
Ecclesiastes chapter 20, verse 24.
Mm-hmm.
A lie is a foul blot in a man.
A lie is a foul blot, or it's a stain in a man's honor. Read on.
Yet it is continually in the mouth of the untaught.
But someone who has not unlearned their worldly ways of reasoning, their worldly ways of perspective, even go back to when we lied as kids. Why would we lie as kids? For instance, if I don't want to go to school tomorrow, I'm going to exaggerate this sickness I got. I'll make it like this sickness is the worst cold I've ever had in my entire life. And psychologically, if you convince yourself enough that something's wrong, you can start creating sicknesses. Your body will start reacting in that way. So I'm going to make myself sick with pretending that I'm sick. And now you're actually sick. Now you're actually suffering. And you manage yourself. But we've been doing this on a small scale this entire time. Hold this. Give me Jeremiah 9 and verse 4 through 6. We're going to come back to that. Because this is a pattern we've had from the very beginning. This is why he said you can't trust men in general. Because they've been doing this. Jeremiah 9 and verse 4 through 6.
Jeremiah chapter 9 verse 4.
Yeah, read that.
Take heed every one to his neighbor, and trust ye not in any brother.
Well, why? Because we was doing people wrong back in the day. Lying, making stories up to get what we wanted. To overthrow somebody else. To gain. Read on.
For every brother will utterly supplant, and every neighbor...
Why? Because Jacob's what? They're supplanted. So we've been doing this. We've been finessing. From the time of Jacob with Esau taking his birthright. We've been doing this. Is our character. Keep reading.
And every neighbor will walk with slanders. And
slanders is a false teller. They tell tales. That's all it really is. I mean, aside from, report malicious utterings, it's a false tale. I'm gonna say whatever I gotta say to make you believe me, so I can get what I want to get out of this scenario. We've been doing this. He's always known this about us. When we're not thinking after Christ, this is what we revert back to. Me. How do I get what I want? Doesn't matter who gets hurt in the process. Keep reading.
Verse 5. And they will deceive every one his neighbor, and will not speak the truth.
And then they start causing other people to sin and fall after their sins. They'll exaggerate to the point where now they got everyone else around them falling apart. Well, they must start stinging the entire camp. Because everyone's caught up in deceit and lies. But where did it start from? A perspective that wasn't on the mind of the Most High, wasn't objective, didn't remove their feelings. Now everything around them is a delusion. Keep reading.
They have taught their tongue to speak lies.
So a person that still does this, they're untaught, but they have another lesson or another. I would say this: they've been taught what the world's taught them. The world's taught us we have to lie to get one on. We have to lie and scheme and finesse to win. If I'm in a job and it's me and this other person, we're both fighting for the same job, I have to learn how to discreetly make myself look better than I actually am. So if you're talking to your higher up, what makes you the better candidate? I'm discreetly gonna slander this person, and if I got some information, I'm gonna drop this information on this person. Because if they find out about, he was talking smack about you last week, I have a higher chance of getting hired for this better position.
It's like are you saying it's like a person that's like undermining or like underhanding kind of scenario?
You're underhanding. It's doing whatever you can do to get on top. And for us, lying, speaking lies, creating slanders, creating narratives about somebody is the best way for us to do it. Is the most natural way for us to do it. It's definitely unfortunate, but that's how we've learned. We've learned that this works. This lying and manipulating works. So now everything I say is a lie. Everything I say is a hyper-inflated story. If I was someone that always wanted attention and felt like no one paid attention to me, I'm going to learn how to spice my stories up. How to spice my... I'm making a very good storyteller. Very good storytellers are just very good liars. They're just very good at just bringing up imagery, making what they say more than it really is. What you got?
We're going after that. We're going into that, as a matter of fact, in the Sabbath class.
Yeah.
The men that's trying to win favors with the kings. Yeah.
Come!
Where they can win position.
Yeah, they're sliding each other.
Yeah, it's all about sliding and fillers.
But the slanderer, that's another definition of being treacherous.
Come.
You know what I'm saying? That's a treacherous person.
And it's a malicious soul.
Yeah.
And this is why there's never wisdom in them. Because the slanderers got hate in their heart. They've got pride in their heart. They have envy in their heart. So therefore, everything I'm saying, everything I see, how I look at you is always going to be skewed. Yeah.
And just in today's terms, we'll say, in order to get to that position, I'm going to fake it till I make it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Everything's fake. Your relationships are fake. Who you think you are is fake. Because that's where the narcissist is coming into. The narcissist is the person who is the king exaggerator. Everything's an exaggeration. Everything is to make sure his image stays the way it's got to be. I'm gonna do whatever, say whatever. I'm a narcissist who is it's not a terminology. I'm a gaslighter. I'm a hyper exaggerator. I'm a considerate bias. All these other scientific terms, psychological terms, to just say I'm gonna make sure my image never gets tainted. Whatever it takes, whoever gets hurt in the process doesn't matter. My job is to make sure my image of myself stays the same.
By exaggeration or omission.
Or that's the part. The omission is I'm not telling you everything. So if I tell you everything, you're not going to give me the reaction I want. Yep. For instance, Moselle mentioned the phone call earlier. For domestic violence phone calls, there was a phone call. This is a cop show I was watching. But anyway, when you watch the interaction, the woman started throwing glass at the man. Started breaking glass everywhere. Then she started scratching him up. The second the man raised his voice, she called the cops. He said, this guy is putting his hands on me. Now, I'm not sitting here saying it always happens this way. It doesn't. In this particular situation, this guy's putting his hands on me. I'm 5 foot, 100 pounds. He's 6'1", 6'3", 250. He's going to kill me. So the cops are coming in, guns blazing, ready to take out this big black guy. I get it. He's a 250, 6'3". That's a problem. But it was the woman who started the whole problem. He hadn't even laid his hands on her. But there's guns pointing at him because she over-exaggerated. Why am I saying this? Because this is a serious problem amongst our communities, not just amongst the church. We do this all the time. We over-exaggerate to get the reaction we want when it's never... No. It doesn't have to get to that point. All right, let that go. What do I want to do with this now? We got where we at last? Ecclesiastes 20. Give me that Ecclesiastes 20. Let's finish that. 24 through 26.
God. Ecclesiastes chapter 20, verse 24. A lie is a foul blot in a man,
Mm-hmm.
yet it is continually in the mouth of the untie. A thief is better than a man that is accustomed to lie,
Wow,
but they both shall have destruction to inherit.
that's a crazy concept. It says I'd rather you be a thief than a liar, which they're still both destroyed. But it said a liar, a person who can't ever get the story straight, is worse than a thief.
A thief is discreet. He's very secretive.
Yeah, well, but it was also like, well, most times thieves are also liars. They're gonna sit here and say, "I didn't happen. It wasn't me. You had the wrong guy."
Funny.
What you got?
It's crazy that it says that too, because it's like at least with a thief, I know your intention. I know what you were trying to do with
Yeah,
with this other person, with this other spirit. We don't know what you're trying to do.
I can't trust you.
Because you might be giving me some boo-boo right
Which it also goes back to the point where Christ is like, "I need you to be hot or cold."
now. Right.
The thief, you're the thief. The liar. How long did it take to find out someone's a liar? A long time. How many lies you got to listen to before you can actually give judgment? This person's a liar versus this is a one-time occasion. How many lies have you had to hear or catch them and be like, okay, this is a character trait. This isn't just a one-time this happened. No, this is a. So all these years we're trying to find out: are you trustworthy or not? Are you lying right now? You're not. I don't know. That person can't be in a position of power or judgment. Because when something turns up and you got to rely on their word, or it's the word of a stranger, now I got to consider the stranger's word.
Yeah.
At least the stranger didn't lie to me yet.
Yeah. And the difference between a thief will do it on the sneak, but a robber will let you see his face.
Well,
And he'll
look.
be bold about it.
I don't know. Look, a thief gonna be a thief. A thief shows his face. He won't show his face. At least he's a thief. You know he's a thief, and if he admits it, then at least you know that's where he's at. Versus a lying thief is even worse because he'll hide the evidence forever, and then you got to go through this whole search. Point of the matter is, this guy's worse than a liar. That's horrible. Keep reading.
The disposition of a liar is dishonorable.
Their thought process is dishonorable because their thought process is not godly. Their thought process is not one that can be trusted with responsibility, with people's lives. So if I put people's lives in your hands, you're going to destroy them. If I put people's lives in your hands that you envy, you're going to destroy them. Or that you have pride over, you're going to destroy them. Or that you hate, you're going to destroy them. That's a liar. Read on.
And his shame is ever with him.
Okay, let that go. Now let's get to the history of Susanna. The history of Susanna. I want you to kind of read this fast. This is a lot of reading. But it's good reading. Read verse 5. Just some back. Well, I don't need to do it. Just read verse 5.
The history of Susanna.
5. So we're going to go through 5 through 10.
All right.
And then we're going to jump to 19 through 60.
Gotcha. Whenever you're ready.
Yep.
History of Susanna, verse 5. The same year were appointed 2 of the ancients of the people to be judges, such as the Most High spake of. That wickedness came from Babylon, from the ancient judges, who seemed to govern the people.
Okay.
These kept much at Joachim's house, and all that had any suits in law came unto them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when the people departed away at noon, Susanna went into her husband's garden to walk. And the 2 elders saw her going in every day, and walking, so that their lust was inflamed toward her.
Okay, so Susanna was very beautiful. And these 2 elders who were put in charge of Joachim's house, who was the rich man, had all of his affairs they took care of pretty much. So they were always there. They made sure everything was running properly. And they saw this woman, and their lust burned in them. Read on.
Verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
It says, and they perverted their own mind, and turned away their eyes, that they might not look unto heaven.
So now, I've got this intense lust. In response to this intense lust, I've turned away my eyes from judgment, that I might not look unto heaven. So to avoid, pretty much, they did the physical action of avoiding accountability for the Most High. Read on.
It says, nor remember just judgments. It says, and albeit they both were wounded with her love.
They were so in love, or so in their flesh, so in their lust, that they chose to forget the just judgments. Now, lust isn't just in this category. Lust is, again, that anger. Lust is that pride. Lust is that envy. However strong you are in your lust, you will choose to turn judgment away. Because now it's no longer about right and wrong. It's about getting whatever you feel off. Getting what you want accomplished. Whatever damage you want, you're going to have it happen. This is what these elders are doing just in their particular lust. Read on.
Yet durst not one show another his grief.
Okay, so in the beginning, they were trying to play it cool, like they weren't these lustful guys. They end up getting caught. So what happened is they left the garden, and then they both came back secretly, and they're like, oh, snap, we're both these wicked, lustful guys. Then it is joined hands, so okay, we both going to be lusting together. That's what happened. Let's jump to verse 19 now.
Story of Susanna, verse 19. Now, when the maids were gone forth, the two elders rose up and ran unto her, saying,
Okay, so they were spying on her now. They went back secretly. Like, you know what? She bad. You like her, I like her. We got to come up with a plan together. That's what they were thinking. What you got?
Join peeping Tom's eye?
Well, look.
Some crazy stories,
Remember, originally they didn't want to show this grief. They're trying to keep it cool. Like, it was secret. Like, hey, you know. They had this, but they didn't expose each other. But when they came back, both of them had the same intention to be wicked.
Wickedness in the garden.
Look, bro, they came back and they were spying. Like, hey, bro, I guess we both gonna be wicked today.
That's the dark web right there, bro.
Brother, that's horrible. That's what these old creeps is doing. That.
Not trying to be a part of that group chat.
They're creeping that.
Doting that.
Verse 20, right?
Pervs, bro. Anyway, keep reading.
Saved.
So she's trying to take a shower. She's trying to bathe. You know what I'm saying? This is her home, her private. There should be no one here at this point.
Right.
Okay, read on.
Right. Story of Susanna, verse 20. Behold, the garden doors are shut, that no man can see us, and we are in love with thee. Therefore, consent unto us, and lie with us.
Can you read?
If thou wilt not, we will bear witness against thee.
So we go. If you don't do, we say we've got clout in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
When you read earlier, the people always came in to solve their problems. So they were very respected. So their opinion was very trusted. Their perspective was very trusted. So this scene, if they said whatever happened, that's what happened.
They were elders.
They were elders. They were respected, exactly. So she's in a very impossible scenario right now. Do I sit here and lose my chastity to these strange guys? Or do I let them expose me or lie on me and now I get hung or killed for a false claim? Read on.
It says, if thou wilt not, we will bear witness against thee, that a young man was with thee, and therefore thou didst send away thy maids from thee. Then Susanna sighed and said, I am straitened on every side.
Yeah.
For if I do this thing, it is death unto me. And if I do it not, I cannot escape your hands. It is better for me to fall into your hands and not do it than to sin in the sight of the Most High.
And that was her reason. So, I'd rather go out knowing the Most High knew I was faithful with Him and faithful to my husband, instead of sitting here and biting the bullet and just because the problem is this: it was not going to be a one-time scenario.
Right.
If they got away with it once, they're going to keep going back doing the same thing. The threat was going to be the same, and now the threat's real. Because if you say no, you already did it the first time, so now the blood's still on your hands. Yeah. It's like, I'd rather get taken out than have to suffer this embarrassment.
Right.
Read on.
Verse 24. With that, Susanna cried with a loud voice, and the two elders cried out against her. Then ran the one and opened the garden door. So when the servants of the house heard the cry in the garden, they rushed in at a privy door to see what was done unto her. But
you see how he did that? One of them took off, opened the door, making it look like he was trying to chase the culprit, trying to chase the guy. Someone's running away. I was just so passionate about stopping this wicked guy. We'll see what happens. We'll find out a little bit. But the steps he was taking, they already had this thought. This is a premeditated plan right here. Keep reading.
Yeah, backup on backup. Verse 27. But when the elders had declared their matter, the servants were greatly ashamed, for there was never such a report made of Susanna. Mm-hmm. And it came to pass the next day, When the people were assembled to her husband Joachim, the two elders came also, full of mischievous imagination against Susanna, to put her to death, and said before the people, "Send for Susanna, the daughter of Chaldea," or Slakia.
Yeah, Chelsea's.
Chelsea's, Slakia. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Joachim's wife. And so they sent.
Read a little faster.
Okay, come on. So she came with her friends and mother, her children, and all her kindred.
Father
Now-
and mother.
Con. It says father and mother, her children, and all her kindred. Now Susanna was a very delicate woman, and beauteous and to behold. And these wicked men commanded to uncover her face, for she was covered, that they might be filled with her beauty.
These guys are still lusting. As they're trying to keep, these guys are some creeps, bro. Like, I gotta get what she looks like. That means they didn't get a chance to look at it.
No.
Everything that they were lusting after was an image of what they thought she looked like. That's gross, bro. Anyway, keep reading.
Verse 33. Therefore her friends and all that saw her wept. Then the two elders stood up in the midst of the people, and laid their hands upon her head. And she, weeping, looked up toward heaven, and her heart trusted in the Most High. And the elders said, As we walked in the garden alone, this woman came in with two maids, and shut the garden doors, and sent the maids away. Then a young man, who there was hid, came unto her, and lay with her. Then he that stood in the corner of the garden, seeing this wickedness, ran unto them. And when we saw them together, the man could not hold, for he was stronger than we, and opened the door, and leapt out.
So essentially, this guy, this imaginary guy, was already in the garden the whole time, all day long. He was waiting for his opportunity, and when everyone left, that's when things happened. And I guess this is the part I read before, but it says, "Then we that stood in the corner of the garden, seeing this wickedness, ran." So they still admitted it was creeping too. Why were they in the garden? But what's crazy? The people didn't hear this. They didn't hear that part of the story.
No.
They completely missed that detail. Like, wait a minute, why were y'all standing in the garden too when she about to shower? What is going on here?
I was just holding.
Why was she only sending out the maids and not y'all creeps?
Right.
That don't make any sense.
I was at the right place at the right
Yeah, come on, bro. I was doing the guard. I was making sure the corners and the boundaries and make sure everything was safe and sound. I look up and I see this guy.
I had to follow the limits, brother.
Bro, that's crazy. So they was creeping. They admitted it, but I guess no one caught it. It says, and when they saw him together, the man we could not hold, for he was stronger than we, and opened the door. Read.
Verse 40. It says, but having taken this woman, we asked who the young man was, but she would not tell us. These things do we testify.
That's just so coincidental. You are right there at the right time to catch her in the act. In the open, too. It wasn't even hidden. Okay. Read on.
Then the assembly believed them as those that were the elders of the judges of the people. So they condemned her to death.
This is the sin, and this is why the Most High said in Exodus 23:2, you can't bring a cause to somebody to cause the rest of the people to rest judgment. Your influence can't be used to do evil. Your influence and your respect that you've garnished from your consistency in the truth can't be used to tear down other lives, because you've got other lusts in mind, whether it be hatred, whether it be passion like this, or any other type of ungodly feeling. You can't let that be a factor in your judgment or your perspective. Read on.
Verse 42. Then Susanna cried out with a loud voice and said, O everlasting Yahweh, that knowest the secrets and knowest all things before they be. Thou knowest that they have borne false witnesses against me. And, behold, I must die, whereas I never did such things as these men have maliciously invented against me.
Okay.
And the Most High heard her voice. Okay. Therefore, when she was led to be put to death, the Most High raised up the Holy Spirit of a young youth, whose name was Daniel, who cried with a loud voice, I am clear from the blood of this woman.
This was the beauty that I wanted to bring out with this whole scenario. Because although everyone else around them seemed to be right in their cause, seemed to be fully convinced this person was wrong, the Most High still brought someone out to execute proper judgment. The only shame is why no one else could have saw it before, and why no one else was able to be at least objective and ask more questions. Why didn't we ask more questions, but we were immediately jumping to killing somebody who didn't even have a pattern of doing such things. There was no questions being added to a point where now a young youth like Daniel has to be risen up and start really analyzing what actually happened this time. Let's get the facts straight. Keep reading.
Verse 47. Then all the people turned them toward him and said, What mean these words that thou hast spoken? So he, standing in the midst of them, said, Are ye such fools, ye sons of Israel, that without examination or knowledge of the truth ye have condemned a daughter of Israel?
Yeah.
Return again to the place of judgment.
You know why? Because in Proverbs 14:15, it says, the simple believe every word. This is why propaganda is so huge in the United States. All I got to do is create some fancy lights, create some fancy music behind the backdrop, and give some information that seems it could be true, and you'll believe that.
Create the perfect scenario.
And everybody else that knows, everyone else that knows it's wrong, there's such a small minority, they look at it as crazy. You look like you don't make any sense. Because you got 300 million people believing one lie, and only 200,000 believing the truth. So now they're the crazy ones. But Esau has this science, or has this down to a science. Let me just give you false narratives. I'm going to give you a little information, and you're not going to do any objective reasoning. You're not going to do your own research. You're just going to take my words for face value, and that's history. That's facts now. And now your whole perspective on life is based off of false information. We've been doing this from the very beginning, and they use it against us all the time because we don't do enough investigation and we don't have enough objective reasoning to take our personal opinions, the way we've been raised, or our original doctrines that formulated our opinions and formulated our perspective, and look at it from the eyes of the Most High and what He could be expected from the situation, what He wanted from the situation. Read on.
Verse 49. Return again to the place of judgment, for they have borne false witness against her. Wherefore all the people turned again in haste, and the elders said unto him, Come, sit down among us, and show it us, seeing the Most High have given thee the honor of an elder. Then Daniel said unto them, Put these two aside, one far from another, and I will examine them. So when they were put asunder one from another, he called one of them, and said unto him, O thou that art waxen old in wickedness, now thy sin, which thou hast committed aforetime, are come to light.
He said, You've been doing this for a long time.
That's what I was saying. Now, these guys are clever. They're clever in this wickedness.
Verse 53. It
says,
says,
what you got?
I was gonna say, hey, no wickedness shall correct you.
Kinda. And it was ever done was done in the dark will come to light. And that's the moral of this story in particular. But the other moral is, as judges, don't let your personal opinions and your personal lust get in the way of the truth. Because the impact is you're destroying lives. And you're casting off fear of the Most High. Because that fear is supposed to keep you in alignment. Keep you from using your own personal opinions, your own personal perspectives. Keep reading.
Verse 53. For thou hast pronounced false judgment, and hast condemned the innocent, and hast let the guilty go free. Albeit the Most High saith, the innocent and righteous shalt thou not slay. Now then, if thou hast seen her, tell me, under what tree sawest thou them company together? Who answered, under a matsic tree. And Daniel said, very well.
Okay. So he's under a massive tree. That's the answer. Everyone heard. He saw them under a massive tree. Gotcha. Keep reading.
And Daniel said, very well. Thou hast lied against thine own head. For even now the angel of the Most High hath received the sentence of the Most High to cut thee in two.
Most High send these death angels out here. You want to be a liar? You want to destroy lies? I got you. Because now I'm going to judge you by the same measurement. Okay, you gonna lie? Okay, that's that. Hey, that's never mind. I'm gonna shut up. Yeah, yes, that's your button, Mr. Postman. Keep reading.
Yeah. Verse 56. So he put him aside and commanded to bring the other, and said unto him, O thou seed of Chanaan, and not of Judah, beauty hath deceived thee, and the lust hath perverted thine eye.
I'm assuming that's Canaan. So he was a Canaanite. Yeah. So which he shouldn't have been in the place of judgment anyway. But That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So he's a stranger, you know.
Doing stranger things.
Yeah, keep reading.
Verse 57. Thus have ye dealt with the daughters of Israel, and they, for fear, companied with you.
So what he's saying is, you've done this over and over again. You've been destroying daughters of Israel's lives for a while now.
This isn't a new thing.
This is not a new thing for you.
These are habits. These are track records.
Which means the Most High finally pulled your card. He finally got you. That's crazy. You reading?
Come.
Missed that. Read that.
Yes, sir. It says, not of Judah, 7:57.
Yeah.
It says, thus have ye dealt with the daughters of Israel, and they for fear companied with you. But the daughters of Judah would not abide your wickedness.
That's awesome. Which means our people are supposed to have a higher level of morality, and not let social fear or the fear of looking bad from the people or even death be a reason why I compromise right and wrong. Because the children of Judah don't compromise. That's the lesson as well. We're supposed to be different. The rest of the nations, they don't compromise. They'll do whatever for whatever. They don't need a lot of convincing to sit here and sacrifice their morals. But our people are supposed to have higher morality. Keep reading.
Verse 58. It says, now therefore tell me, under what tree didst thou take them companying together? Who answered, under a holm tree. Then Daniel said unto him, well, thou hast also lied against thine own head. For the angel of the Most High waiteth with the sword to cut thee in two, that he may destroy you.
Yeah.
With that, all the assembly cried out with a loud voice and praised the Most High, who saved them that trust in him.
And this is the moral of the story. First and foremost, they should have asked these questions beforehand. They should have not been so quick to give credit to these guys, especially someone who's not even your own people, as a reason or as a judge, as a proper judge. They don't have the same morality we have. So why am I giving them so much credit and their character so much credit? Now, let that go. We got a couple more. We're going to finish up in a little bit. Give me Job 15 and verse 3 through 6. And then someone else give me... I'm jumping now. Read that real quick and I'll go... I forgot the next one. Give me a second. Job 15 and verse 3.
Job chapter 15 and verse 3. Should he reason with unprofitable talk, or with speeches wherewith he can do no good?
And this goes back to the beginning of the class. As a wise man, as a person that's given the responsibility to give messages, as a person that knows right and wrong, according to the scriptures, should I be reasoning with unprofitable talk that can't garner a positive result, can't maintain positive relationships, only going to destroy, only going to disembark or dissemble the relationships that are being built in Christ? Because a wise man isn't going to do this. Only a fool does. Only a fool can rely on their false perspectives to tell a story. Read on.
It says, yea, thou castest off fear and restrainest prayer before the Most High.
He says, because your lust is so high, you're not going to get your prayers answered anymore. I can't deal with you anymore. And the unfortunate part is, a lot of people are going to stumble after your actions. Which is why he's so particular on who he gives his information to. And everybody can have this information. Because if they did, there'd be a lot more broken hearts. There'd be a lot more broken homes. There'd be a lot more broken camps. Because this factor, this reality, people have to be trusted. They have to be developed before they're given the responsibility of lies in their hands. Because we're taught by society, lie to get one up. We're taught by society, if you don't have what you want, make it happen for you. At all possible.
Carpe diem, right? Seize the moment.
Exactly. Seize the moment. Seize your reality. Create your own reality. We can't live after these old ways, this old mindset. Read on.
For thy mouth uttereth thine iniquity, and thou choosest the tongue of the crafty.
Mm-hmm.
Thine own mouth condemneth thee.
That tongue of the crafty is the mindset that exaggerates. Is the tongue that is creating stories to get the reactions you want. Now again, this exaggerated spirit goes into other facets. For instance, it might not be as critical or as in regards to leadership. Well, what about this one right here? I'm gonna just read this. It's Let me see. Sorry, I didn't have this originally, but I think this is important. It says, okay. Another reason why we choose the craftiness of our own tongue. Because again, we've been harping on just leadership and people who have alternative perspectives. And that's why they go the same. By Michael, we're going back to Michael, whatever his name is, Michael Carrison, PhD. He says, another reason we exaggerate is that we don't believe in the righteousness of our own cause. He says, we think, you know what's funny? We know we're off when we come in and we try to overhype a situation. He says, we think we may be overreacting. We think we may be overreacting emotionally when we get so upset that our partner hasn't done the dishes after we've been at work all day. So we describe our condition at work as overwhelmed. We start using the fancy adjectives and make it more than what it really was. I was overwhelmed or stressed out instead of busy, or I had a long day. It says, in order to justify being peeved about the dishes. It says, if you lack an internal voice that assures you that you have a right to be heard, you have to turn the situation into a catastrophe to justify complaining about it. Because we start choosing tongue crafty on small scales in our own household. Because I want you to feel how angry I am and believe that this anger is justified in this house. Although it's just some dishes. Although it's just the laundry wasn't done. Although it's just there wasn't food made at the house. But we did it on small scales every day. Which means what? We lied every day. So it's a surprise when bigger things start happening and our lust starts getting intensified more and more that we'll lie on a larger scale. It's not. We practice it every day, whether we realize it or not. Our word choice, for in the Hispanic culture, it's the cheese maze. Yeah. You know what makes cheese may? It's the fact that it's a little exaggerated. It's not all the way accurate. Most times it's not accurate at all. But the storytelling is so juicy, it's so intensified, I want to hear more about it. I'm inspired. Awesome. Yeah. It gets me going.
And that's where the word cheese made is the cheese.
It's the cheese, huh?
It's good, right? Who doesn't like cheese?
But it's not real. Crackers. It's not a real reality. Or gossip. Whatever it might be. It's the same spirit. It's not real, but we feed off of that. We feed off of the small lies, and then we're wondering why our mind gets psychologically accustomed to it. So then when now the big situations happen, and now it's actually time to tell a proper perspective. Now I'm starting to formulate bigger and bigger issues. Anyway, that's another class. I just want to throw it out there that this tongue of the crafty is not just for leaders who aren't seeing things from a proper perspective. This is from us as well, in households.
And it makes sense. Wherever there's a disaster, there's confusion. So you can't. Everything's obscured.
You know why?
Clear.
Because we in an argument, and you realize, what are we arguing about? How does this get to this point?
you don't.
What started this problem? Did it have to go from a 2 to a 10? We're yelling at the top of our lungs. I remember when I was younger. If I had a bad day, unfortunately, I would seek problems at the house. I'm like, we don't argue. I'm going to sit here, and I don't like that my clothes was not folded today. So I'm going to make this situation blow out of proportion. Now, I didn't know I was doing it intentionally, but that was a way I was relieving stress. Because that was the only way I could get that out of me. Until I was counseled, but you can't come into home and be a fire guy for no reason. You're being a lion in your own household. Yeah. What are you doing right now? In my head, I'm like, look, man, I'm upset, I'm mad, and I don't like that you're happy right now. You're happy, and this ain't done. You're happy, these clothes ain't done. I ain't got no food in my belly. I've been working for 16 hours. Nah, it ain't gonna be like this.
It was 107 today.
Yeah. Oh, it was 107 degrees. Or you're trying to complain about your problems. And your problems ain't my problems. My problems are way more important than your problems. So I'm gonna make it more important. I'm gonna intensify it. But it didn't have to be that way. That's immaturity. That's foolishness. That's just my personal example. I know we've got our own personal examples. We blew things out of proportion and we made it what it didn't have to be. And you lost a couple of days with your partner, or you lost a week. Or there was some. Now everyone's walking on eggshells. You don't know what type of guy you can be today. I can be exaggerated emotion today. I can be the normal guy, the one I married. We do this on a small scale every day, and we don't even realize it. All right, it's 10 o'clock. I've got another angle on this, but I think that sums up the. I'll do one more verse. Let's do this. Let's do Let's do this just to give a nice little conclusion. ¿Qué es esto? ¿Cómo? Oh, what you mean, case this? I didn't give you the verse yet. All right. I want to end this on a good note. 19 and 23. No, 2 Timothy 2 and verse 21. We'll do that. That's the last verse. 2 Timothy 2 and verse 21.
2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 21.
Give me 1 second, sir.
Take your time, son. I'm ready for you. Right here.
Yep.
2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 21. If a man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor.
The exaggeration, the false perspectives, the false narratives we're creating every single day. The false narratives that are being manufactured in our own minds every single day because of the pollution in the world. We have to be purged from these, from the realities that aren't real, from the perspectives that aren't godly, that aren't Christ-like. We have to think more objectively. We have to, I'm going to go back to the points. Impartiality. Can I be impartial to the situation? Can I not take my personal feelings and what might have happened to me as a way to manipulate the outcome? Can I be evidence-based? What was the facts? What happened? What's really going on here? When I give my message about this person, can I have measurable and verifiable tools such as the scriptures? When I'm creating the narrative, when I'm telling the story, what verses am I using to justify the thought process? Or am I just using my own opinion? If I am, that's subjective. Logical and aware of my own bias. Can I be aware that I have my personal biases? That I might have this problem with this person. I might have this opinion with this person. That's human nature. But what we have to work on is, although I know it's there, I can't use that in my message. So when I talk, yeah, I might think this person is so-and-so, but you know what? I'm not going to influence your perspective one way or another. The Most High is going to call him out for what he is. He's going to see it for what he is. Just like Daniel saw those wicked men. He's going to be just regardless. I don't have to take vengeance in my own hand. This is an objective thinker. He says we have to be purged. So be more like this. Be more reason-based, logical, scriptural-based, and not so emotional to everything. Not so reactory. Read on.
It says, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified and meet for the master's use.
And you can be used more in a larger capacity like that because you're more trusted. Read on.
And prepared unto every good work.
And with that being the case, that is the end of class. The water for you guys coming out, the water for listening, and we will see you maybe tomorrow. Maybe not actually, because I think we're getting ready for Passover. But
it's possible.
If you see us at 10:30, there it is. Look out for the YouTube update. The water again for coming out. Shabbat Shalom Israel,
Shabbat
and we'll
Shalom.
see you later.